Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today, Litera Review and compare multiple documents faster. I'm Matthew Roberts, I'm the Senior Products Manager at Litera for all of our comparison applications. We'll be doing this webinar with Jack today. Jack.
Hey everybody, it's Jack Nagroski here. I'm the Senior Manager of the Sales Engineers here at Litera. So excited to be here and talk about Litera Review.
Excellent. So what I'm showing at the moment is our drafting wheel of applications. And this webinar is about Review, which lives within Litera's drafting suite of applications. The drafting applications are broken down into 4 categories: create, check, collaborate, and a newer one that we've added recently is publish. Review sits in the collaborate space along with traditional comparison applications. If you do want to learn more about any of the other applications listed here in the drafting wheel, please do reach out to your account manager. As I say, today we're going to focus in on Review. So what is Litera Review? It's an application which helps users review and act on changes made in multiple modified documents. So why did we build Litera Review? So users who send out documents for review to multiple parties and receive multiple versions back do not have an efficient way to understand how the original document was changed by all of the parties, or they've got no way to manage all of those changes that the other parties have made to their original document. We're going to talk about some of the review cycle challenges now. Before we go into
and when it comes to some of these challenges, you can, slide is a good representation of some of the just the issues you run into, or the workflows you run into when going through versioning of documents. Whether it's passing it between a couple people, going back and forth, and updating and changing information, or even what this slide shows in a little more depth is maybe I send a document out to a number of different people to add comments, to edit, to make changes to the document. And then as you start getting those documents back, how do you start consuming the changes that are there? What versions do you compare, and how do you compare them to make sure that you're fully understanding the changes and getting the best understanding and the best final document between those changes? So there's a couple different ways you could think about this, and there's definitely some major use cases to this. Even from my perspective, where I'm dealing with a lot of our clients and firms taking a look at this and implementing this, there's been a couple comments along the way that this is almost a way to kind of co-author without necessarily going down that route of co-authoring. If anybody on the call has ever gone down that route, it can be a pretty complex project to do, and this can kind of alleviate that by giving you a tool in your, right on your desktop to be able to consume all this different information.
Yeah, I think one of the things this diagram does show is that sometimes you might send out documents, for example, version 3, where it goes out to a law firm who's making some edits, but at the same time internally you've taken version 3 and made your own changes to it. So you've created version 4 and version 5 in your system now. Before then you get the edits back from the law firm, and you're saving that as version 6 now, which doesn't contain your own edits in version 4 and 5, and it starts getting very hard to manage all of these changes to the document. And that's something that Review will help us solve. One of the other challenges, Jeff?
Yeah, and then even from a specific content perspective, as you're going through and iterating on information, after you get to that final document, you want to understand maybe how a particular paragraph or how a particular clause may have grown through the life cycle of that document. So you can leverage this to be able to understand those changes and maybe even adjust them based on the information or the review process that you go through. And that's definitely something that we'll show here momentarily as we dive into demonstration here. But it really gives you the ability to consume and consolidate the changes from the different people working on the document. And so what you're looking at here is just a little taste of what we'll be getting into shortly. But you can see that for the most part, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to, allow you to consume the changes here and Litera review will be able to accomplish that.
So this is, just before we jump into the demo, and you'll see this in the demo, this is where you can see that the user's working very closely side by side with Microsoft Word, and is able to see, when they're accepting changes in the review application, they can see them edits being accepted and updated in the Word document themselves live while it's happening. Jack's going to take us through and give us a demo of this now.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, as this is launching here, I mean, that's the beauty of this. It's you're working within Word as well as having, almost a review pane next to you as you're going through this document here. So when we launch Litera Review here, there's a couple ways that I can go about starting it here. I can pull documents right in from iManage if I wanted to, but in this case, we'll just pull them right from my local system here and pull them right into Litera Review. So I have 4 files that we'll just go through here today. And what's great is they'll come in exactly how they are ordered in, your DMS or your folder structure here. But what's great is I have the ability to reorganize these. So if I, need to make revision A the original, I can just click and drag that. I can move these around to make sure that they are organized in the way that I would expect them to. As well, you even have this modified by, so it pulls in the author information from the document, but you can also come in here and change this. So if, maybe if, this was cleaned by some metadata cleaner coming to you and, this was an unknown author, you can go ahead and specify that or even update them or change them to be something a little bit more clear as you're going through and reviewing them. So once I've had everything organized the way I want, I can just go ahead and click that review button here, which will go ahead and start retrieving those changes between the documents that I have here. And, we can do up to, 20 documents with Litera Review. So giving you that ability to get pretty detailed with different versionings and details of it. So as this is finally loading here, what you'll see on the left is that kind of final output of the document. And then over here on the right, we'll start seeing the changes and allow me to go through and, accept, reject, and even add notes along the way to be able to better manage and understand this process that I'm going through. So as we take a look at the information that we're seeing here over here on the right, these are all my changes that are going on. So we'll take a look at the first one and step through a handful of items here. But we can see that the first one, directors here. We can go ahead and click on it. It's going to navigate me right into the area of the document that change is. And, I agree with this. I'm going to go ahead and accept this change. And what's nice about this is the document will automatically update for me. You'll see that change there. You can even see a little activity note as well to, let myself know that I accepted this change. And then as we go through a few other items here, we can take a look at this, this item number 3 here. It's another item, thing I want to point out is that we list all these changes numerically and even have the ability with this little heat map on the left here to be able to scroll through and navigate to the different changes that do exist here. But as we take a look at, let's see this item here, both, 2 of the authors made this change. Again, I'll go ahead and just accept it. What's nice is when you go through and accept some of these, you'll be notified if, there's going to be some conflicts if you make some changes or rejections here. So even something like this example here, where it comes to, everybody's removed sirs but added their own intro here. I can come in and choose what's most appropriate for me. Maybe it's going to be sir and madam here. And like I mentioned, you get this little notification to let you know that, hey, some of this has already been accepted here. Probably doesn't make sense to accept or reject these items as well. Now, what's nice about this is as I'm going through this and you need to make any changes here, maybe I'm in this particular paragraph here, and you'll notice there's a lot of differences between the versions of documents. Now, I can come in here and accept all changes from this particular author, But in this case, maybe there's some specifics, or maybe I want to get a little bit more granular when it comes to some of these changes that are happening. So I can come in and maybe accept the deletion for arrangement. And you'll notice that it's been struck out of the two other changes to let me know. And then I can start coming through and, maybe I like the formal insertion and I like this change of produced instead of written. So I can go through and accept, the individual changes that I see in the paragraph, but then as well as if I see, realize that I come down to, this particular author and I realize that these extra additions here are going to be great, I can just simply accept them. And what it'll do is it'll accept anything that's not a conflict, and then leave any of the conflicts alone there. And what's nice about this is, like I mentioned, that activity notes area, I can come down here and get a little bit more detailed and, maybe even let myself know that, Matt had told me to accept these specific changes. And that way it gives me a little note that I can come back to if I ever need to. Which leads me kind of to the next part I want to talk about is, if this was a, very long and complex document, I have the ability to save this off and come back to it as needed. So I can just simply save this. It'll be a little project for me for Litera review. So that way, if I need to, come back to this another time, I can just reopen that. I can follow my notes. Any exceptions or rejections that I've done already will be there for me as well.
And the other thing, just mentioning that, Jack, is you have different people who are responsible for different parts of the document. One person might accept some, and then you can share the review file with someone else that's also got reviews, so they can go and review the parts of the document that they care about.
100%. No, that's perfect call out. And even, it's another definite use for the activity notes. I could just mention, hey, Matt, take a look at this when you can and go ahead and review that. And even when it comes to, comments as well, we can point those out for you too. So anytime I make a comment in the document, it's always going to be called out in review here. And you can even notice where the comment has been called out in a particular paragraph and do what you need to as appropriate here. And since this, since I did save this is always, kind of auto saving, just similar to what Word does. And if I'm going through this and realize I need to revert, I have the ability just to simply revert back to a previous save. That's automatically set up for me. Excuse me, I'll drink some water here. And then the other big thing to note up at the top with the ribbon is the filterability here. So, I mentioned that you could have, up to 20 documents in here. So you could, in theory, have 20 different authors. And if there was something or someone that you wanted to focus in on, you have that ability with the filtering to do that as well. And then the other piece to talk about when it comes to Litera review is the ability to have an activity log created for what you're doing. So as I've gone through and made my exceptions, made my rejections, added any notes there, I can go ahead and create this activity log, and we'll go ahead and save this off. And it'll go ahead and generate a PDF for me that gives me the ability to, go through those changes and consume, all the activity that has gone on throughout this review process of these particular files that I'm working on here. So once let's see what screen it fell onto, and here we go. And so I'll zoom out a little bit, but you can start seeing some information about the documents that are there, and then the activity that's gone on. So I can see that I made an exception here. Here's a couple other exceptions I made, and where was that note? I think I passed it up here. But we'll also capture those notes that, there they are, that you put in the activity log as well. And so it really, hopefully you can see and understand how kind of simple and easy this is to use, to be able to go through and review and accept, reject any changes that you need, and even have an ability to leave notes and collaborate a little bit as well. And like I mentioned, this is a pretty big challenge. It's something I encounter all the time when in the number of years I've been doing this, and really when it comes to comparison, this is another tool in your tool chest to be able to accomplish what you need in your day to day. Matt, was there anything else that I can add here? Maybe I didn't touch on.
Yeah, if you could just show us the activity log again, I just want to explain a couple of things.
Yeah.
Particularly on this paragraph where you changed or accepted changes from multiple different people. So you can see, you just scroll up a tiny bit more to where it's got number 6. So number 6 is representing, this is change number 6 within the document. And what you see in the box there is the original text. So this was how the text started. Then in the next parts of the table, next rows, you can see all of the revisions. So from Barry, from Marina, and from Brunel. You can see how they changed it. And where it's highlighted in green, these are the changes which were accepted. But down the bottom, below the activity notes, so you can see kind of that Jack had added a note that said I told him to accept some specific changes and which changes were accepted. But at the bottom there, you see final. And this final section is kind of the final output of the text after we've made all of them exceptions. Once we've accepted those changes or rejected the changes, this is the final output of that text. And I think that's really powerful for users to be able to see that.
Oh yeah, it is, because I mean, I know, when you go through these large documents, it can be very, challenging to understand, okay, what's happened after the fact here, who clicked what, or why did I accept this change, 3 days ago and today it doesn't look right. This gives you that ability to, have that reference, have that context to, the review process that you're going through.
I also think sorry, Jack. I also think the activity log itself is a brilliant way of being able to run a report on the changes between all of these different documents and kind of output one PDF file that will show you the changes from all of these multiple documents that you can go and then share with other parties that may or may not have a review application.
Yeah, it can be great for internal consumption of just the changes, but also as well as, if there's ever a request to see, hey, I would love to see all the changes through all the different revisions. This is definitely gives you the ability to do that as well.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Jack, for a great demo there.
Yeah, no problem. I think we'll go ahead and pop over to my slide here and open it up for any questions.
Let's see if we've got any in the chat. So we have a question here. I'm just reading it. So give me a second. So there is a question about the different formats that Litera compares, and Litera compare itself can compare all sorts of different formats, including scanned PDFs, Word documents, PowerPoints, and Excel files. Review is really around Word documents. At the moment, we may extend that in the future, but it's predominantly for Word documents. But our Litera Compare desktop solution can compare all of these other formats. Litera Review does handle table comparisons and other elements within a Word document, of course. So you'll be able to manage the changes that are made to tables as well in Litera Review. That's one of the questions.
It looks like there's one about DMSs, and It's just as of today, it's just I manage, but we're always looking at others. I don't know if you have any extra context you can provide, Matt.
Yeah, we will certainly be adding some more document management system integrations similar to what we have in Litera Compare up today, where we support many more DMS integrations. I think we're picking the most used ones first, based on requests from our clients. Someone said that their Litera interface in Word does not look like this. That it doesn't if you don't have Review installed. So Litera Review is a separate application to Litera Compare. They are both in the kind of comparison space, as I showed earlier on the drafting wheel of applications where they live in the collaborate area. But this interface and functionality is, you'll get this with Litera Review, not just Litera Compare. So I suspect that might be why you're not seeing this in your environment. Never asked that question. Another question about what is the compared document saved as, for example, docx. So the way Review is working is it's actually taking the original document that you have, and that's what's shown on the left-hand side. That's what's opened up in Word. So that starts off with your original document that you pulled in, the one that you selected as the original. Then as you go through the Review application, accepting changes or rejecting changes, those changes are then updated in that original Word document. So the moment you start accepting or rejecting changes, your original Word document is no longer your original Word document. It's continually evolving as you accept and reject these changes. When you've finished the review process, you've got your Word document there, which you can save in Word, either as a docx. From Word, you might want to choose to save it as a PDF or any other format there. But I'd expect people would save it as a Word document at that point in time. There's a couple more questions, I think. We've got a few here. So are activity notes different from comments? And only those with this program see the activity notes. Do you want to take that one, Jeff?
Yeah, so when it comes to the activity notes, you can see those in that activity log that we can generate, or you would see them in the actual Litera Review application. That's where you would see those activity notes.
Okay.
And it looks like there's not a question here. Can multiple users work on the document at the same time? No. So when you're going through Litera Review, it's just one person that would be going through and accepting and rejecting any of those changes there. But like we mentioned, I have the ability to save it off. So if I come to a point where maybe I need to pass it off to somebody else to continue or have their expertise review it, I can save it and send it to them to be able to complete or review.
Thanks, Jack. There's a question here about moving from Workshare, and is there any quick guide to make our settings match? I think this question is probably more about moving from Workshare Compare to Litera Compare. There is no kind of match from Workshare to this Litera Review application that we've shown today, but there are some guides that will help clients who are moving from Workshare Compare to Litera Compare. So do reach out to your account managers to get any help with that.
It looks like there's a question about comparing with formatting and fonts and styles. So there are options to not have those shown if you don't want them to. When it comes to review, I'm pretty sure we just care about the content, not necessarily the text sizes and font formatting.
I didn't catch that one, Jack. There was another question here, though, about does it only work through a DMS? one, if a smaller company doesn't have it, only file structures. Certainly, yeah, I mean, this works with local documents as well. When Jack done the demonstration, actually, he did pick files from his desktop, just in a folder structure on his desktop. So yeah, it certainly works without a DMS. You don't have to have a DMS to use the review application. If you do have a DMS, we assume that you're going to be storing your documents within that DMS, and you'll be able to pull in the versions from your DMS into review. If you don't, you can grab them from your local file system as well.
I think that looks like that's it for the questions.
There was a couple more, I think. I'm just trying to. There's lots of very good questions here today. Thank you. So there was a question here about Litera, whether Litera can compare only text within the file, skipping formatting, different styles of paragraphs, headers, etc., added to the document. I don't know if that question's specific to Litera Review or to Litera Compare itself. At the moment, in Litera Review, there's not many configuration options that allow you to control kind of the types of changes that are detected. It will only be focused mainly on kind of text changes and image changes and things like that, rather than formatting or style changes in Review. Within Litera Compare, if the question was geared towards that, there are many, many options that will enable you to control what is compared, how it is compared, and how the results are displayed to users. And you can suddenly turn off things that will detect changes to styles, headers, and formatting, things like that.
So it only works with Word documents. So if it was a PDF, it would just have to be converted to a Word document prior to comparing it or prior to reviewing it. And if you'd like more details about Litera Review as well, you can reach out to your Litera rep that can help show you some more details and get in your hands if needed. Yeah.
There was an interesting question here about whether Review captures changes made to styles and numbering. It does not detect changes made to styles or numbering technically. The numbering one's an interesting one. So if someone's inserted a paragraph into a document, that will affect the numbering for all of the subsequent paragraphs in the document, and because it's added a new paragraph with a new number in there. But we're not specifically highlighting that as a change that's being detected. The reason why is because when you've got your Word document open, if you decide to accept that paragraph insertion, it's going to insert that paragraph into the Word document. And Word will automatically adjust the auto numbering to adjust all of the following paragraphs. So it doesn't make too much sense to ask a user to accept all of their numbering changes. It's really going to be dependent on whether users are kind of inserting that themselves and accepting those changes. If you've changed the type of numbering, it's not going to pick that up yet. It will be based on your original Word document. Someone asked, is there a demo version or online one to see how it works in practice and if it suits our company's needs? Certainly, I mean, Review is available. It's a relatively new application that we launched earlier this year. You can purchase it, or you can purchase it online or through your account managers, and I'm sure they'll be able to help arrange a trial as well if you contact your account managers and want to see if this meets your needs.
Awesome.
Well, I think with that we're probably up on time. Just want to thank everyone for joining today and thank everyone for all of the great questions around this. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us at Litera, and we'll help answer them.
Cool.
Hope you enjoyed today.
Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.